The conference room glass didn't mask his words. I froze, coffee cup halfway to my lips, as Ethan's familiar voice carried through the thin barrier. She's just some trust fund princess playing consultant. Probably Daddy's idea of teaching her about the real world. My name is Sydney, and I'd spent the last 3 months pretending to be exactly what he described. Just another corporate consultant, analyzing workflow efficiency. What Ethan didn't know was that I owned the company he was so casually dismissing. "Come on, man. Sydney's not that bad," said another voice, Mark from accounting. "She actually knows her stuff. Please." Ethan's laugh cut deep. "Have you seen her taking notes in meetings? Like a college intern. I just smile and nod because, hey, somebody up high must want her here." My hands trembled as I set down the cup. Just yesterday, Ethan had taken me to lunch, praised my insights on the Henderson project, even shared photos of his kid. I'd started to think of him as a friend. "Speaking of meetings," Ethan continued, "gotta go prep for my presentation. Watch her face when I present her research as my own. Classic corporate ladder move." Footsteps approached the door. I quickly grabbed my laptop and pretended to be absorbed in emails as Ethan emerged. "Sydney, just the person I wanted to see." His smile was warm, practiced. "Got a minute to go over those numbers you sent?" I met his eyes, searching for any hint of guilt. There was none. "Actually, I have a meeting with Roslyn. Maybe later." "No problem, catch you after lunch." He touched my shoulder as he passed, the gesture so natural it made my stomach turn. I waited until he disappeared around the corner before slipping into the empty conference room. The ghost of his words still hung in the air. My phone buzzed. A text from Gianna. "Coffee break? You look like you've seen a ghost." I glanced up to see her concerned face through the glass. She'd been the first person here to treat me like a real colleague, not just another consultant passing through. "I'm fine," I typed back. "Just processing something." The phone rang. Roslyn, my father's oldest friend and the only person here who knew my true identity. "Sydney, monthly board report review in 10 minutes. You coming?" "On my way." My voice sounded steadier than I felt. I gathered my things, muscle memory taking over while my mind raced. In 3 hours, Ethan would present my research as his own, expecting me to sit there and smile. He'd probably get praised for his initiative, maybe even a promotion. The weight of my father's company keycard felt heavy in my pocket. I'd promised him I'd learn the business from the ground up before taking his place as CEO. "Trust is earned," he always said, "and leadership is about understanding every level of your company." Well, I understood something now. Standing up, I smoothed my skirt and checked my reflection in the glass. The woman staring back wasn't a trust fund princess anymore. Ethan wanted to play corporate games? Fine, but he'd forgotten the first rule of climbing the ladder. Make sure you know whose rungs you're stepping on. Dawn painted the city skyline as I paced outside Roslyn's brownstone. The early morning chill matched my mood perfectly. "You're here early," Roslyn said, opening her door before I could knock. She wore a silk robe, coffee already in hand. "I'm guessing this isn't a social call." "He stole my work." I followed her inside, the familiar scent of cinnamon and coffee wrapping around me. And that's not even the worst part. "Sit." She pointed to her kitchen island. "Start from the beginning." I told her everything. The overheard conversation, the stolen research, the fake friendship. Each word felt like pulling out splinters. "And you want revenge?" It wasn't a question. Roslyn had known me since I was 5, climbing trees in my father's garden. "I want justice." "There's a difference." She raised an eyebrow, sliding a coffee mug toward me. "Yes." I wrapped my hands around the warm ceramic. I could expose him right now. One email to HR, one meeting with the board, but that's not enough. Why not? Because he'd never learn. He'd just move to another company, pull the same tricks. I met her eyes. "I need to understand how deep this goes. Who else he's hurt." Roslyn's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then back at me. "Gianna just texted me. Apparently, Ethan's presentation was a huge success. Marketing wants to fast-track his proposal." My proposal. My hands tightened around the mug. Perfect. Sydney, don't worry, I'm not going to do anything illegal. I pulled out my laptop. But I am going to give him exactly what he wants. More responsibility, more visibility, more rope. To hang himself with? Rosalind sighed. Your father would want me to protect his company. I opened my email. Ethan's not just stealing credit. He's manipulating data, building himself up by pushing others down. That affects the whole company. And how exactly do you plan to expose him? I started typing. First, I'm going to recommend him for the Anderson project lead. The one you've been preparing for months? Yes, he wants my work. Let's see how he handles it without my notes. I hit send. Next, I'm scheduling a series of high-stakes presentations. Once he's committed to his lies, I'll start introducing inconsistencies in the data. Small ones at first, until he's forced to either admit he doesn't understand the work or make up explanations. Rosalind finished. Clever and dangerous. I learned from the best. I smiled at her. You taught me chess, remember? Sometimes you have to sacrifice a piece to win the game. Just remember, she stood, moving to refill her coffee. In chess, the king isn't the most powerful piece. The queen is. My phone chimed, an email from Ethan. Thanks for the Anderson recommendation. Drinks tonight to celebrate? Perfect timing, I muttered, typing my reply. Love to. The usual place? Sydney. Rosalind's voice was soft. Be careful, not just of him, but of yourself. Revenge has a way of changing people. I looked up at her, thinking of my father's words about trust and leadership. I'm not changing, Rosalind. I'm finally becoming who I need to be. The sun had fully risen now, casting long shadows across the kitchen floor. Somewhere in the city, Ethan was probably practicing his next presentation, his next theft. But this time, I'd be ready. The office archive room smelled like old paper and secrets. I'd timed my visit perfectly. Most people were at lunch, and the security camera had its usual 5-minute maintenance reset. Need help finding anything? I jumped. Gianna stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. Just doing some background research, I said, trying to keep my voice casual while sliding the Anderson project files deeper into my bag. She stepped inside, closing the door. On Ethan? My heart stopped. What makes you say that? Because I've been doing the same thing. She pulled out her phone, showing me a spreadsheet. These are all the projects he's led in the past year. Notice anything weird? I leaned closer. The success rates are impossibly high. Exactly. And look at the names of the consultants who worked under him. She scrolled down. Every single one left the company within 3 months. The pieces clicked. He's been doing this for years, taking credit, driving people out. Before they can expose him. Gianna's voice hardened. My best friend Lisa worked here last spring. She tried to report him, but he'd already convinced management she was unstable. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as I processed this. Why are you telling me this? Because you're next on his list. That Anderson project? He's already telling people you're struggling to handle the workload, that he had to step in. My hands clenched. Is he now? A knock at the door made us both jump. Ethan's voice carried through. Sydney, you in there? We need to talk about the Anderson numbers. Gianna quickly grabbed some random files. Just helping Sydney with some research, she called out, opening the door. Ethan's smile didn't reach his eyes. Great. Mind if I borrow her? Actually, I said, I was about to grab lunch with Gianna. This won't take long. He gestured to the hallway. Just got some concerns about your latest projections. I followed him to the small conference room, noting how he chose one without windows. Classic intimidation tactic. These numbers, he spread out my reports, they don't match what I presented to the board. That's because they're the real numbers, I said quietly. He blinked. Excuse me? The projections you presented were optimistic. These are realistic. I pointed to the charts. See these market variables? They indicate, listen. He cut me off, leaning forward. I know you're trying to prove yourself here, but you're out of your depth. Let me handle the presentations. Stick to research. Like Lisa did. His face flickered. Who? Never mind. I gathered my papers. You're right. I should focus on research. In fact, I'm working on something fascinating about pattern recognition in corporate fraud. The threat hung between us. His smile turned cold. Careful, Sydney. Research can be tricky, easy to make mistakes, career-ending mistakes. Thanks for the warning. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, by the way, I'm having drinks with some board members tonight. Want to join? We could discuss your unique project management style. I left before he could respond, but not before seeing his knuckles whiten against the table. Back at my desk, a message from Gianna waited. Found something else. Meet me after work. You're going to want to see this. The game was changing, and for once I wasn't the only player on my side. You're not going to believe this, Gianna said, sliding a USB drive across the coffee shop table. These are backup files from the company's cloud storage. Ethan's not just stealing credit, he's stealing money. I plugged the drive into my laptop, scanning through folders of financial reports. How did you get these? It owes me favors. She sipped her latte. Look at the Henderson project budget allocations. My eyes widened as I scrolled. These consultancy fees, they're going to shell companies. All registered to different addresses, but guess who's listed as the beneficial owner? Ethan's wife, I whispered, recognizing Jocelyn's name. My phone buzzed. Roslyn calling. Sorry, I need to take this. Sydney, Roslyn's voice was urgent. Where are you? With Gianna, you need to see... Get back to the office, now. Ethan's called an emergency project review. My stomach dropped. He can't. Those presentations aren't due for weeks. He's claiming there are major discrepancies in the numbers. The board's assembling. I was already packing up. I'll be there in 10. Gianna grabbed her coat. I'm coming with you. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt endless. Through the glass walls, I could see board members filing into the main conference room. Ethan stood at the front, looking confident. Just in time, he smiled as we entered. I was just explaining some concerning findings in the Anderson projections. Funny, I said, taking my seat. I was about to do the same thing. He clicked to his first slide. My original research, twisted and manipulated beyond recognition. As you can see, the initial forecasts were deeply flawed. Fortunately, I caught these errors before they could impact our strategy. Those aren't errors, Gianna interrupted. Those are the original numbers before you altered them. The room went silent. Ethan's smile tightened. I'm sorry, but this is a senior management meeting. You're not authorized. She stays, I said, pulling out my own laptop. Everyone needs to see this. I connected to the projector, opening the files from Gianna's drive. While Ethan's presenting altered data, let's talk about the Henderson project, specifically these consulting fees. This is inappropriate, Ethan cut in. These documents aren't registered to JO Consulting Services, I continued, along with 5 other shell companies, all billing substantial fees to company projects, all registered to your wife's name, Ethan. The color drained from his face. You hacked my private files? They're company files, Gianna corrected, on company servers. An older board member leaned forward. Mr. Oliver, is this true? Of course not. Ethan laughed nervously. This is clearly a desperate attempt to... The conference room door opened. Roslyn walked in, followed by a woman I recognized from photos, Jocelyn, Ethan's wife. I'm sorry, Ethan, Jocelyn said quietly. I can't cover for you anymore. What are you doing here? Ethan hissed. Telling the truth. She turned to the board. I have records of every fraudulent transaction, every project he manipulated, every person he pushed out. I sat back, watching Ethan's carefully constructed world crumble. Part of me felt satisfaction, but another part just felt tired. Security will escort you out, Roslyn said to Ethan. The police have some questions about those consulting fees. As he was led away, Ethan stopped beside me. Who are you? He whispered. Really? I smiled, thinking of my father. Someone who learned the difference between climbing the ladder and burning it down. My father's office remained exactly as he'd left it. I sat in his leather chair, playing the last video message he'd recorded before his death. Sydney, his familiar face filled the screen. If you're watching this, you're probably facing your first real crisis as CEO. Remember what I taught you. Power isn't about control, it's about responsibility. A knock interrupted the playback. The board's ready, Rosalind said, entering. Are you sure about this? I closed the laptop. No, but it's time. The boardroom fell silent as I entered. These people had known me as Sydney the consultant. Now they'd meet Sydney the CEO. Before we begin, I said, taking my place at the head of the table, I owe you all an explanation. Damn right you do, Marcus, the senior VP, cut in. We just lost our top project manager to fraud charges, and suddenly you're calling emergency meetings. Actually, I pulled out my father's company ID, sliding it across the table. I'm calling this meeting because it's time you knew who I really am. The room erupted in whispers as the ID was passed around. You're William's daughter. Marcus's face reddened. This whole time? Yes. I met each person's eyes. My father believed the best way to understand a company was from the ground up, so I started as a consultant, learning every department, every process. While Ethan was stealing from us, someone muttered. Which raises a valid concern, I acknowledged. How did none of us catch this sooner? The answer is uncomfortable. We created a culture where appearance mattered more than integrity. Rosalind nodded encouragingly as I continued. I'm not just here to reveal my identity. I'm here to propose changes. I distributed folders. Complete restructuring of project management, new oversight protocols, transparent reporting systems. These are radical changes, Marcus protested. They're necessary ones. I opened my folder. Page 3 shows how Ethan's fraud could have been prevented with basic checks and balances. Page 4 details the cost to our company culture. Speaking of culture, a board member spoke up. How can we trust you after this deception? Fair question. I stood, walking to the window. I deceived you about my identity. Ethan deceived you about money and merit. The difference is intent. I did it to understand our company's strengths and weaknesses. He did it for personal gain. And now, Marcus asked, now we rebuild, transparently. I turned back to the room. But I need to know, are you with me? The silence stretched. Finally, Rosalind spoke. I've watched Sydney grow up, watched her learn every aspect of this company from the mailroom up. If anyone can lead us forward, it's her. One by one, heads began nodding. Even Marcus managed a grudging smile. One condition, he said. No more secrets. Agreed. I returned to my seat. Now, let's talk about those changes. Starting with the Anderson project. As we dove into the details, I felt my father's presence in the room. He'd taught me that true leadership wasn't about having all the answers. It was about asking the right questions. My phone buzzed, a text from Gianna. Need backup in there? I smiled, typing back, no. For the first time, I'm exactly where I need to be. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows as we worked, casting long shadows across the boardroom table. Sometimes, I realized, stepping into the light meant casting shadows of your own. The annual company gala buzzed with nervous energy. My first public appearance as CEO had everyone on edge, especially after the Ethan scandal made headlines. You clean up nice, boss, Gianna said, appearing beside me in a sleek black dress. Though I missed the consultant cardigans. Careful, I laughed. I can still assign you to quarterly audit duty. Sydney, Rosalind's urgent whisper cut through our banter. We have a situation. Jocelyn's here. My champagne glass froze halfway to my lips. Ethan's wife? Why? She's asking to speak with you. Private room upstairs. It's a trap, Gianna said immediately. Ethan's facing charges. She's probably recording everything. Only one way to find out. I handed my glass to Rosalind. Watch the room. I'll be back. The upstairs conference room was dark, except for city lights streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Jocelyn stood at the window, her reflection fractured in the glass. "Thank you for meeting me," she said without turning. "I'm sure your people advised against it." "They did." I closed the door. "But I'm curious why you're here." She turned, and I was struck by how tired she looked. "To warn you, and to apologize." "Warn me about what?" "Ethan's not working alone." She pulled out a phone, playing a recording. I recognized Marcus's voice immediately. "The girl's got to go. Bad enough she played us with this undercover boss routine. Now she wants to tear down everything we built." My hands clenched. "When was this?" "Yesterday. Marcus has been Ethan's partner for years. The shell companies, the fraud, it goes deeper than you know." "Why are you telling me this?" Jocelyn's laugh was bitter. "Because I'm tired of lies. Ethan convinced me the fake consultancies were just tax strategy. By the time I realized the truth, I was implicated too deeply." "So you turned on him to save yourself?" "I turned on him because someone needed to stop it." She met my eyes. "Your father tried, you know. That's why they—" The door burst open. Marcus stood there, face flushed. "Well, isn't this cozy?" "Marcus," I started, but he cut me off. "Save it. I heard enough." He pulled out his phone. "Board's calling an emergency vote tomorrow. No confidence in leadership. Should have stuck to playing consultant, princess." "That recording won't help you," Jocelyn said quietly. "I already sent copies to the SEC." Marcus's smile turned ugly. "Funny thing about evidence, it has a way of disappearing, just like people who cause trouble." "Is that a threat?" I stepped forward. "Because threatening a CEO in front of witnesses isn't very smart. Neither is trusting Ethan's wife." He backed toward the door. "See you tomorrow, Sydney. Bring a box for your things." After he left, I turned to Jocelyn. "I need everything you have, every record, every recording." She nodded. "Already compiled. But Sydney, be careful. My husband may be in custody, but Marcus has other friends, powerful ones." "Good." I pulled out my phone, texting Roslyn, "Plan B, now." "Let them come." "You're not scared?" I thought of my father, of all the signs I'd missed while playing my role. "No, I'm angry, and tomorrow they'll learn why that's worse." The gala continued below, oblivious to the storm brewing above. Tomorrow would bring chaos, but tonight I had names, proof, and purpose. Marcus wanted a war. Fine, but he'd forgotten something crucial. I'd learned from the best about hiding in plain sight. The boardroom crackled with tension as Marcus finished his speech, and therefore I moved for an immediate vote of no confidence in Sydney's leadership. "Interesting timing," I said, standing slowly. "Right after I announced the internal audit." "This isn't about the audit," Marcus scoffed. "This is about your deception." "No," I cut in. "This is about yours." I nodded to Roslyn, who started distributing folders. "Everyone, please open to page 1. Marcus grabbed a folder, his face draining of color as he read. "This is nonsense." "Really?" I clicked my presentation remote. "Because these bank transfers look very real to me. 10 years of kickbacks, hidden under infrastructure costs. You can't prove—" "Page 2, I continued. "Emails between you and Ethan, dating back 5 years, planning everything from fraudulent consultancy fees to—" I paused, letting the tension build. My father's accident. The room erupted. Marcus jumped to his feet. "That's a lie." "The brake lines didn't fail by accident." My voice shook with controlled rage. "You arranged it because he was getting too close to your scheme." "Security," Marcus barked into his phone. "We need—" "They're not coming," Roslyn said. "They're too busy letting the FBI into the building." Right on cue, the boardroom doors opened. 2 agents entered, badges displayed. "This is ridiculous," Marcus laughed desperately. "You're all believing this trust fund princess over me. I built this company." "No," I said quietly. "You stole from it, just like you stole my father from me." "You have no proof." "Actually," a new voice spoke up. Jocelyn entered, followed by a man in a suit. "They do. Meet David, my brother. He's been your accountant for 8 years. David placed a hard drive on the table. Everything's here. Every transaction, every cover-up, including the payments to the mechanic who tampered with William's car. Marcus lunged for the drive. The FBI agents were faster, catching him before he reached it. You don't understand, he struggled against their grip. She'll destroy everything we built. All our side arrangements, our partnerships. You mean your bribes? I picked up the drive. Already being investigated, along with every project you and Ethan touched. As the agents led Marcus away, he turned back. Your father was weak, too ethical for his own good, just like you. No, I said, watching him go. He was strong enough to stand up to people like you. And now, so am I. The boardroom sat in stunned silence. Finally, one of the senior members spoke up. What happens now? Now? I sat back down, opening my laptop. We clean house. Every corrupt deal, every dirty contract, we fix it. All of it. That could cost millions, someone protested. Yes, I agreed. But integrity is expensive. Corruption is worse. Rosalind touched my shoulder. Your father would be proud. Sydney, Gianna called from the doorway. Press is gathering downstairs. They want a statement. I stood, straightening my jacket. Let's give them one. Time to show everyone what real leadership looks like. As we headed for the elevator, I caught my reflection in the glass walls. No more hiding, no more pretending. The company needed healing, and that started with truth. Marcus had been right about one thing. I would destroy everything they built, but only to rebuild it stronger, cleaner, better. Just like my father would have wanted. The morning sun warmed my father's old office as I packed the last of his things. Each item told a story. His favorite fountain pen, the family photo on his desk, the worn leather chair where he'd taught me about business ethics. Ready? Rosalind asked from the doorway. Almost. I picked up his nameplate. Just saying goodbye. You don't have to clear everything out, she said. This can still be your office. No. I smiled, placing the nameplate in the box. I'm taking the one down the hall. Fresh start. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Marcus's sentencing was complete. 15 years for fraud and conspiracy. Ethan had gotten 12. Justice, finally. Sydney, Gianna burst in, waving a folder. The audit results are in. You need to see this. I took the folder, scanning the numbers. The company's actually stronger than we thought. Turns out when you remove corruption, things work better, Gianna grinned. Who knew? Speaking of working better, Rosalind handed me a stack of resumes. These are the people Ethan pushed out. Most want to come back. Including Lisa, I asked. Top of the pile. Gianna pointed. She's brilliant. Marcus buried her reports about the fraud, but she kept copies. A knock at the door made us turn. Jocelyn stood there, looking uncertain. The SEC cleared me, she said. David too. They accepted our cooperation as evidence. Good. I gestured her in. Have you thought about my offer? She nodded. Running the new compliance department. It's fitting. Who better to catch fraud than someone who helped expose it? Sydney, Rosalind interrupted, checking her watch. The all-hands meeting starts in 5 minutes. I picked up my father's box. Time to face the troops. The main conference room was packed. Hundreds of employees, all waiting to hear from their new CEO. No more hiding behind a consultant's role. Most of you knew me as Sydney the consultant, I began. Some of you probably feel deceived. You're not wrong. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. But deception can serve truth. My time as a consultant showed me both the best and worst of this company. It showed me who to trust, who to watch, and most importantly, what needs to change. I gestured to Gianna and Roslyn. Change starts with people like these. People who saw wrong and spoke up, who risked their careers for truth. And it continues with all of you. Every employee who suspected something wasn't right, but felt powerless to act. That ends today. We're installing new reporting systems, transparent management, real accountability. The room was silent, attentive. My father built this company on trust and integrity. People like Marcus and Ethan tried to destroy that legacy. They failed. Because integrity isn't just about following rules. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I lifted my father's box. So yes, I deceived you about who I was. But I never deceived you about what I stand for. And I never will. The applause started slowly, then built. I saw hope in their faces, determination. Real change wasn't easy, but it was worth fighting for. Later, in my new office, I placed just one item from my father's box on my desk, his old nameplate. Not as a reminder of what I'd lost, but of what I'd found, my own way to lead. The company would heal, and so would I.